And now, from the Marquee Media Studio inside Mark Tank, it's the Mark Haney Show.
Yes, this is the Mark Haney Show, and we are on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. And on today's show, we are going to be bringing on a couple of members of what I call the backyard advantage, the people that are making the Sacramento entrepreneurial ecosystem so special. We are going to be joined by Ray Bryant. He is with Jessup University. He's over in the business school, and they are developing young entrepreneurs. And we're also going to be having Eric Knopf. He's a co-founder of Webconnex, and we're going to talk about the importance of entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about what makes a good entrepreneur and maybe who should not be an entrepreneur. We'll even talk a little bit about the best way to learn about being an entrepreneur. So stick around for that. And at the end of the show, I'm going to share some thoughts about the best way to learn about being an entrepreneur and how to take that into your own hands so that you can become the best entrepreneur possible. So stick around, my friends. So why is entrepreneurship important? We're going to be talking about that along with so many other topics, how to raise an entrepreneurial child and, how to become the entrepreneur of your dreams. I am joined today by Ray Bryant and Eric Knopf. They are from different areas, but we have a lot of alignment, I think, between the three of us. Ray is an entrepreneur, and he's also an associate professor at Jessup University. Eric, both of you guys have been on the show. Eric Knopf, he's a co-founder of Webconnex, a highly successful business that is spawned right here out of our region. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by, let's start off by getting a little bit of your background. I gave the quick intro, but Eric, why don't you give a little bit of your background? Tell us a little bit about Webconnex, even though we probably won't make that the main thrust of the interview.
Yeah, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I started Webconnex with my co-founder, John, in 2008 in the financial crisis. Yeah. And from that, the ashes of that crisis came opportunity. We started a little fintech business focusing on charitable fundraising, event registration, event ticketing. And so it's white label software where our software is not branded like the typical Ticketmaster's, Eventbrite. It's all kind of transparent to the customer. And so we went really hard on product. Like, let's make a great product. Let's make it reasonably priced and affordable. Let's outperform people in customer service. And let's just do a great job and have fun.
Last time I talked to you on the show, you guys were taking big company retreats out of was it out of the country?
Remember, yes,
I was like, what kind of this guy is, he's a startup, fast growth company, and he's taking these trips all over the world for building the great culture.
Yeah, our culture is incredibly important to us. It's something we look at as one of our primary strategies for how we compete. We compete with billion-dollar competitors all the time. And so culture is one of our key strategies for how we're going to outperform and have exponential results. But yeah, we do an annual company trip where we take all of our staff, we take their spouses and their kids.
Oh, that's right.
And then we go out of country and we pay for it all. And we have a great time. And it is just the best thing we do. I just love every
You probably have no turnover. You probably have zero turnover.
We've got a 95% retention rate. So yeah, we keep people, we attract great people. The people I get to work with are just amazing.
And just thinking about, I don't think I've talked to you since COVID. Did COVID affect your business in terms of events and ticketing and stuff?
Oh man, how much time do you have?
That just dawned on me that must have been a battle.
Our business was effectively outlawed. So you'll appreciate this. So 80% of our revenue comes from events. It was March 13th, 2020. I was in a boardroom and Gavin Newsom comes and says, no more public gatherings over 50 people. And with a Slack channel that's notifying us of events canceled, and boom, every event that we're seeing is just racking up, and we're watching the dollar signs, vanish. So revenue goes to zero, which is bad enough. But then all the mass refunds happen, and we get basically about 4 or 5 months of revenue clawed back in the span of about 14 days. And we were left with, 3 weeks of cash left. And it was just shock and awe and devastating. And so we just wept with our team. We're we don't know what's going to happen. This is going to be a really bad outcome for live events for a long time. And so we got some guidance from some advisors. Some said, cut hard, cut deep, cut fast. That's going to be the nice thing to do, is let people go. And so we started to line up jobs for people in other places because this is a sinking ship. And then probably, shortly inside there, we heard the rumors of a PPP loan. An advisor said, hold on, just like, wait, can you give it a second?
Yes.
And so
I remember those moments where don't cut PPP. Are you kidding? Keep them.
Keep them. Yeah. And so we rallied the team and said, this is looking terrible. If you can get a job, go get a job.
Oh.
We're going to try and buy as much time as we can. We've lined up these things for you. If you want to stay, this is going to be a battle. Every single one of our team members decided to stay.
Wow.
And so we maneuvered and we decided we're going to, hustle. We're going to help people resume events the best they can. And we got the PPP loan, which bought us some time. We made it through summer. We restored everybody's comp. And then we found these markets for our software. And we recouped all of our losses, all of our gains. I'm a man of faith. And so the journey that it's been is
sounds like there was some ingenuity mixed with that faith.
Oh man, we launched 25 different features in the span of those 6 months. I mean, we reinvented DocuSign and built it into the ticketing in a span of 10 days because we needed to de-risk events for event organizers, that they didn't want to have public gatherings because they're now a liability for people transmitting it. So how do you build in waivers into a ticketing process? And so our product team, our dev team, our solutions team, they just were amazing. And we just all went for it. Let's save this company together. If it wasn't my own story, I honestly wouldn't believe it.
And where are you guys today as compared to where you were?
Tripled.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. We came back. We doubled last year. This past year, we processed $1 billion through our software in the past 12 months.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a story of, for sure, faith, but also I have to imagine you attribute it to that culture that
what other culture would have said, hey, we're going to stick around? And so, we try to do fun things. We invest our culture as much as we can and never realizing when would it really come through. And it came through in this miraculous way where people were bonded together and said, we're all going to help and make this happen. We had one person that says, hey, I've been really discipline my finances. I've saved for a long time. Can I send $500 to you guys and spend it on AdWords? That's the kind of things that people were doing that time. And so, I get emotional just even thinking about the team, what we went through, but it was incredible.
And we're not trying to neglect you, Ray.
I love this story, Mark.
This is like, where's Mike? No.
This is a fantastic story.
Well, you're a humble man, but maybe give us your background. You've had some success and you're working on some cool stuff, and you're with William Jessup as well.
Absolutely. No, I have been very fortunate. My background, as you know, is varied, and I've had a couple of successes and exits, and a couple of smoking black holes in the ground, and things that I've tried and learned a lot from both of them. But I would actually, I think it's important. One of the things that Eric and I absolutely share is our faith, and I think so much of whether I've been going through a success or a failure, and we actually had a chance to talk about this at lunch about that. It's our North Star, and that's what really keeps us focused on why we're doing what we do, whether it's for me teaching or for him running Webconnex, and I think it's super important because it just keeps us. I think as we've shared, it keeps us grounded in the good and it keeps us grounded in the bad. So
can you elaborate on that a little bit? How do you bring faith into the business, into the effort, the team?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I'll give you my answer, and I'd love to hear Eric's point of view too, because he's always got a great perspective on that. For me, it really starts at sort of the basics of integrity and work ethic, and I think that what I feel personally called to do in my faith, whether I'm talking to you as a friend or whether I'm talking to Eric as a friend or whether I'm talking to my wife, it all starts with integrity, and that has to carry over into what I'm going to do with the people I work with. Mm-hmm. And then the other piece is that I have a responsibility, to my students in this case, but certainly, when I was running a company to commit to them, to give them the best, to work as hard as I can to make sure that, my investors, my customers, and my employees were getting everything that they deserved from me. And I think that's the two primary manifestations of my faith in what I do.
Well, the William Jessup student, I've had a number of them as part of our team over the years, and just the students at William Jessup are really remarkable. And I keep thinking,
I agree.
that, it's all because of the faculty.
Yeah, I agree.
But I keep thinking, so you're a private school, private university, and I think back to the the verse from the Bible, the term from the Bible, to whom much is given, much is expected. And 100%. So I'm thinking about the quality of student that you have there and the expectations that they put upon themselves to achieve.
Yes. And I think there is absolutely that, right? For a large majority of our students. And I think we as faculty and staff put a pretty high expectation on them too. Because we want them to come out, we want them to be stewards, right? We want them to be stewards in the world of what they've learned, of their faith, of sort of their experiences. And so we expect a lot out of them. We expect them to do a lot.
Well, we have Steve over there who's not coming on the show. He's the dean of the School of Business. Where does entrepreneurship fall within the business curriculum?
It's actually pretty core. So we have, for the undergrads, we have a concentration in entrepreneurship. They can take 4 classes along with their core classes that really focus, and we walk them through an exercise of starting from scratch with an idea and how do you validate that idea as something that might or might not work, and require them to, give a little pitch at the end of the course. For the MBAs, we kind of raise the level and we take them through a similar exercise, but we go a lot deeper. And then for the MBAs, over the course of a year, they have an entrepreneurship capstone. And at the end, we invite a panel of entrepreneurs and folks in, and they're the sort of the judges, if you will. So the final grade is really dependent upon these 4 or 5 folks that come in and evaluate their pitches. So
so Eric, you wrote this book, Raising Entrepreneurs, which is I haven't read it yet. You just handed it to me, but I take it that it's a book about helping your children, and your children, if you're a parent, become entrepreneurs or think entrepreneurially. And I guess it brings me to, how do you know who's right? How do you know when it's right for you to be an entrepreneur? Do you discover that as a little kid? Do you discover that in college, or do you discover that when you're an old man like me?
I think I was raised to be an entrepreneur. And what my parents may have done on accident, I believe we can do on purpose. So my entire genesis of how this book came about is that when people ask me, how do I think about things and ideas? And I just realized I'm kind of different than what other people's baseline is. And as I was looking at the stories from Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Steve Jobs, you name them, Bill Gates, they all had these foundational and transformational experiences as children that was made possible by the parents that then flipped the switch for them. And I was no different. So my father's a family physician, a doctor.
That's an entrepreneur at some level.
Yeah, at some level, but you're also trained to eliminate risk, and you are trained to go through these rigors and things. And my earliest childhood imagination of what I would have for a career was to be the road construction guy who turned the sign from stop to slow.
Okay, on the side of the road?
On the side of the road.
Okay, yeah.
I'm 6 or 7 years old,
That's what you wanted to be?
That's what I wanted to be.
Huh.
And my dad's a doctor. He could have squashed my dreams. And my mom too. They could have just... that's a minimum wage job, requires no skill. Yeah. Think of a real job, that is probably what a lot of people's experiences are. And a lot of people that are adults today actually had squashed dreams as kids that actually holds them back. But my parents, they're got me the yellow vest and the yellow hat, took me to construction sites and just fanned the flame of be the best construction guy ever. And then, as kids go, then I wanted to be a fighter jet pilot. It's that's cool. Top Gun was out. I named my son Maverick, so I've got this Top Gun thing. They took me to air shows, got me the jean jacket. Then I wanted to be a fly fisherman. They got me the fly tying set. Yep. And there's a number of stories here, but at every stage, my parents got behind me. And what it gave me is this ambition for if I want to go explore it, I can go do it. And if I change my mind, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. And so I feel what was given to me, my upbringing, changed almost my DNA. To where I look at the world differently and I can approach problems differently that is natural for me, that's not natural for other people. My brother's an entrepreneur, my sister's an entrepreneur. And so I look at our pedigree, where did that come from? And people ask, where did this come from? My parents are perplexed. And I'm intrigued by the role that parents hold the keys that can tilt the scales for someone to become an entrepreneur. Yeah, so that's what the book's about.
So I had a newspaper route as a little kid, and I think that was, and I got a lot of accolades and pats on the back and all that kind of stuff for what we did. I had my little brother helping me out, and it was fun. It was hard work, but it was. I do think that some of those things happened. And sounds like a little bit older than you, 9 or 10 years old, 11 years old. Now, Ray, from your standpoint, do you think there's certain ages where it's the prime age to make that discovery or to sort of lay those seeds?
I mean, I agree with Eric. For me, I had very similar experience. I was like 10 years old, and I one day opened our garage and I emptied everything out to sort of the side of the driveway, and I set up our card tables, and I put like, plastic tablecloths over it. My mom comes out and she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm starting a restaurant." and instead of, to your point, right, instead of squashing it, she goes, "Okay, let me ask you a few questions. Where are you going to get the food?" And of course, my 10-year-old answer is from the fridge, right? Yeah. Well, how much is that going to cost you? And so she started to really probe on making me think about my restaurant, right? Yeah. Air quotes restaurant. But I think there was an element that, she wanted to teach me, and my dad sort of the same thing, teach me that, hey, start to examine things, start to look at them and start to figure out, like, critically, is this a good idea? Are people going to come, Like, are they going to show up on our street at our garage to, or are they going to go down to the mall and eat, right? That kind of thing. I think there's definitely a sort of rearing that supports it. I hadn't actually thought about it until you sort of, started to put a framework around it. But I also think, Mark, at least in experience of the last 5 years being at Jessup, that there are definitely our MBA students and our undergrads that kind of discover that they're entrepreneurs. And although I haven't to date, I will going forward ask them about their upbringing, because I find it fascinating that there's probably this common thread like Eric was talking about.
I would agree with Eric that most of us are sort of programmed to, and I would think William Jessup student wouldn't be any different. You're sort of programmed to, get good grades and then go to college, get a job and, succeed and, have some kids and that's the life. And it sounds like a great life, right? But there's another life that the three of us know that is different. So if I was to ask you, why do you love entrepreneurship? Why is entrepreneurship important? I mean, what's it done for you?
I love solving problems. As a kid, I did puzzles, I did games, anything where I could solve a problem. And to me, it's just solving commercial problems for people, solving problems that people will pay me for. And for me, it is, I genuinely believe that God hardwired me this way. There's no other way to explain it. Like, there's the old joke about, entrepreneurs will work 80 hours to avoid working 40, and I think there's just a hardwiring in us a lot of times that's just, we'll do it because it's just deep in there. And I don't know, it's probably not a great answer to your question.
I think it's a great answer. I think about the importance of entrepreneurship for America. And entrepreneurs, you mentioned some of the famous entrepreneurs that we all know and how they've changed the world. We can think about how those guys have changed the world. But even the smaller entrepreneurs that are out there putting it all out on the line, taking risk and making sacrifices, they're changing the world too. They're creating jobs and creating opportunity for people. So, I mean, why do you, Eric, see entrepreneurship as like great for society?
Oh, for me, entrepreneurship is about commanding your own destiny and creating your own future. I just love that you are in control and you are architecting your own future. And I just love it. From a faith perspective, I define entrepreneurship this way, is that entrepreneurship is agreeing with God that the world is not as it should be and then doing something about it. Oh, wow. And so for me at a faith level, actually, it's like, man, the world is not as it should be. And I'm especially equipped to do something about it.
Yeah, you have gifts.
Yeah, like I should go use them, dang it. Yeah. And so for me, it intertwines there, but I love entrepreneurship in the fact that, man, I get to create my own life that I want. And I would joke with my wife, it's like, well, entrepreneurs, might be last to be paid, but they're also the last to be laid off too, I guess. So, we kind of joke with her about like, where's the job stability? Because, a lot of people are raised with like, go find a job that'll be stable and that, get 3 letters after your name and have this, really stable life. And you look at the layoffs, you look at all of the carnage that's going on, especially right now in the tech industry, and there's no guarantee for any safety anywhere. So with that, we're not guaranteed anything. I'd rather be in control of my own future and destiny and create my own future rather than rely upon somebody else and create theirs.
Well, I would agree with you that we have this moral obligation to bring our gifts to the world, right? It's the right thing to do. But not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur. I think we can all be innovative. We can all tap into our gifts if we want to, but some people, they don't want the extra stuff that comes with entrepreneurship, the 80 hours potentially, because that's not how they want to spend their time. But that freedom is nice. I mean, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
So who should not be an entrepreneur?
Ray?
Thank you.
Love to hear your answer.
Well, that's a great question, Mark. I think it starts. So let me give you an observation from my sort of student base that I teach. The ones that I find that are most uncomfortable with the concept are those that deeply fear rejection, that have a very low tolerance for ambiguity, and really don't like change.
Okay.
And I mean, those are kind of the three things that I see in the students.
Can we unpack these again here? Because that was really good.
Okay.
So I heard they don't.
Well,
like
I was
change.
on the spot.
They don't like change. They don't like ambiguity.
So they have a low tolerance for ambiguity.
Okay.
They deeply fear rejection. That's probably number one, Mark. I think the deep fear of rejection. So when I teach, so you'll appreciate this. When I teach the undergrads entrepreneurship, right? I mean, you sort of 19 to 22. The first 2 weeks are what we call rejection therapy. And so I assign them 3 safe, legal, moral, ethical exercises where they have to go out and it's almost certain that they'll be rejected. So for instance, I ask them to go to Jamba Juice and ask if they could buy fresh fruit, right? So, can I buy a banana, right? And about half the time, actually, interestingly, Jamba Juice will sell them a banana. It's almost always for $1. But then I asked them to record, ideally on their phone with a voice recording, their emotional reaction to that. And then they do all 3, and then they submit a paper that sort of has a summary of all 3 of these things. And almost universally, the results of every single paper, wow, people are nicer and better than I thought. Wow, getting rejected isn't nearly as scary as I anticipated. Wow, this was a really great thing for me to learn because I had never learned it before.
I wonder where you think that fear comes from, like our growing up, maybe our parents?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you look at young kids, like they actually have to learn fear. When they are younger, they're just fearless. And it's hard because you want them to have a healthy balance of, hey, don't do this or you might get hurt. We need to teach them consequences. We need to teach them they're powerful people. Mm-hmm. But I think shame and embarrassment is really part of the equation here. My son wakes up and he's got hair, up like this, and he's wearing his pajamas. Like, hey, buddy, we can't go out to the grocery store in your pajamas like that. Like, so we're introducing some embarrassment there. Like, we want to be presentable, but shame and fear of people that can creep in those settings is really delicate. And I think to answer your question, who shouldn't become entrepreneurs? I think it's more of who can't become entrepreneurs. If you are living for the praises of people, you will die by the criticisms. And people who are living for the approval and for the reputation and all of my self-worth is all wrapped up in what all these strangers I've never met think of me and how many likes I have and how many followers I have. The people who are obsessed and their entire identity is wrapped up in that, they probably are the ones who can't become entrepreneurs because so much of it is risking, trying, and failing. And too often we will wrap our identities into what we do. And when our identity is reduced down to what we do and our thing fails, which it's going to probably, then we fail. And that's why so many people have such fear of trying new things, is they're living for the adoration and praise of other people. And they also now intertwine their entire worth as a human being into this thing and terrified about what people will think if it fails. And for me, I changed my career so many other times. Like, if it doesn't work, I'll just try something else. I told my wife, quite literally, she's like, I'm going to be marrying an entrepreneur. How does this work? Because I have to support her through grad school. I was like, thinking this is this great revelation. I've done the math. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So all I need to do is start 10. I thought it was like this great antidote, which is funny. Like the math has kind of almost been true, but having overcoming the fear of failure and having to be separate from my worth as a person and as an identity is super key.
And I think it's fair to point out too that because we all deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? I'm invested into I don't know how many companies, and every one of these founders deals with fear at some level, right? So it's not like it doesn't exist. It's just they've worked through it and they've decided to go to Jamba Juice and ask the question. And invariably, once they get in the game, if you will, and they start, they take some action, the fear tends to go away after a bit. If it's where you're sitting back wondering is when they seem to, have so much fear. But it also points out to people like us that are leaders in this realm at some level is that confidence is so fragile, right? So that sometimes we have to give a little bit of tough love to adults, right? As they need to get tough love. So how do you do that without breaking their confidence, right? And you're dealing with people that are a very impressionable age dealing with 18 to 24-year-olds, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, Mark, I think it really comes down to non-weaponized truth, like really candid truth, but not. I mean, because it's very easy to sort of cross that line and taking truth and weaponizing it, as opposed to just being honestly candid about them. And I think, my observation is that oftentimes, in very limited ways, have they been told this, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think we've sort of, maybe it's as a editorial, but I think society has sort of developed this, you can be anything you want to be, and everything you do is great, and here's a trophy. And I don't think that helps necessarily, because as we all know, we've all failed, and some of us have failed in pretty spectacular fashion with, and sometimes with other people's money, and you have to, show up, tell the truth, and take your lumps and move on. And I just don't think that that's necessarily the way, but they're desperate for it. And I think that's where you just that candor, but a loving candor.
Yeah. You say non-weaponized. So that means set the right environment,
right tone, the right environment, the right heart coming from, right? It's like, what is my intent in telling you this? My intent in telling you this is to make you better, as opposed to knock you down. Because to Eric's point, I mean, it's easy to do, especially when somebody's feeling vulnerable and they failed. But it's also a really great time to reinforce things. It's a really great time to make them stronger if it's done with the right intent and the right heart.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of almost sounds like a slight contrast to your parents of we tell them you can be anything. Do they give you tough love too? So I'm thinking of, you can go be a construction guy, you can go do this, you can go do that, and a very encouraging methodology.
Yep.
Was there tough love as well?
I think the loving thing is to let people have the natural consequences to their decisions. And that's what's wrong in a lot of parenting is we rob our kids from actually experiencing something that was natural to their decisions.
So the trophy, when you didn't earn it, is not natural.
Yeah,
right? It's look, I didn't get I didn't get anything.
Yeah,
I lost money.
I live in the mountains.
No customers came.
I live in the mountains, and my son, this is a few years ago, so he was probably like 5 or 6, and he'd been on the slopes for about a year and a half, and he really wanted this black diamond run. I was like, buddy, you're on the green squares still. You're not right. And we'd ride the chairlift together over and over. He'd point down below the chairlift and say, I want to do that run. It's like, buddy, I don't think we should. Like, you haven't. So eventually it's like, okay, this is going to be a teachable time. Let's go do the run, buddy. About 40 feet in, it then goes to straight vertical slopes, falls on his back, snow on his back, and he starts screaming, rescue me. And we're underneath the chairlift, by the way, so all the world's watching, laughing at this 6-year-old, screaming, and he's begging for me to rescue him. I was like, buddy, I can't undo this. I'm going to be with you. We're going to get out. But remember, this is what you wanted. We'll get through it. So let's go down. I'm trying to coach him, but I can't rescue you from this. And so I think my parents did that with me too. They allowed me to have the natural consequences to my decisions as well. They love me. I'm with you. I'm going to help you through this, but I'm not going to rob you of the outcome in which you were persistent and determined to have.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, you think it makes you kind of show the comparison to entrepreneurship. The best way to learn entrepreneurship is to go up the chairlift and get on the slopes and
try it.
Get knocked down, and you learned a lot and you became a better entrepreneur because you got knocked down, but you got back up.
Yeah.
If you got the heart to get back up. So the second best way to learn about entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is by being around people like yourselves who have been on that chairlift, who have got knocked down, figured out a way to get back up, and figured out a way to persevere. But I'm thinking about teaching people entrepreneurship. How do we do that in a classroom setting? How do you teach entrepreneurship? And I guess to Eric too, you have an innovative team. How do you teach entrepreneurship?
Yeah, we always say the light is green until it's red.
Okay.
Unless you're launching rocket ships and boarding them, like the worst thing that can happen is probably just doesn't work. And we go back and change strategy. So I think part of us is we want to encourage exploration and try things and see if it works. And so we'll do tests and pilots, but we want to, the best we can, create a culture of saying, hey, failure is okay, but not trying is not okay. So on a culture level with our team, we want to encourage and embrace that exploration because the stakes are really low. We think they're really big in our head. Maybe we might lose some money, but again, if it doesn't work out, you just go back to what you're doing. And so when I talk to people who want to start things and they're like, but what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, well, you just go back to what you were doing, and they realize all the fear that they have is
if you
really
can do that worst case scenario is you went back to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you attack from a different direction.
Yeah. Okay. You're afraid of losing money. Okay. What's the budget you're okay with going to zero? Great. We've solved that now. Let's try what's the baby version and try that. And if it doesn't work, we're going to pivot and move. And if it doesn't work out, we'll try something else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love it. How do you teach entrepreneurship over at William Jessup? I know you sent him to to Jamba Juice.
Yeah,
but besides that,
I mean, we teach
sounds
sort
like
of
it's hands-on.
the basic, and it's great. We do have a syllabus and all that, but really it's in the classroom experience is intentionally vague and intentionally ambiguous, because like nobody held your hand and said, here's how you're going to start Webconnex, right? And I think that's true of any of us who've been founders, and so. Just like there are days in class like, okay, so, what are your ideas and what do you think? And we'll spend 50 minutes or an hour just like kind of looking at the walls and they have to engage and own it. And it's really unique in a classroom setting because there's definitely that one class day with every class where it's like the light bulb goes off and like, we're just going to have like a whole semester of just staring at the wall if we don't like step in and own it. And I think there's a real shift there psychologically for them to go, yeah, this is like, that's where, of course, 3 or 4 weeks later, it's like, that's what you were trying to get us to do. Right? There's this realization that, because nobody's going to like guide you.
How much of the emphasis, I guess, is on raising money from venture capitalists versus bootstrapping and raising money from your customers?
I would even say that more of it would be bootstrapping, right?
Okay.
We sort of lean towards that, at least. But even more in our curriculum, it's really about taking something from like just the seed of an idea to validating that idea to the point where you could say, yeah, this is worth, building an MVP. This is worth testing a minimum service. This is worth like really like spending a little bit of money that's not catastrophic to go forward and test it, with real life customers. And so we're just trying to communicate that process before, because it's such a, no matter what, it's a classroom, it's artificially constrained. And so we have to work within those constraints. But I think we try and get folks to the point, and we've had a few. I have an undergrad who started an ice cream company. He's starting to get traction.
By the way, thanks for the gift. Shout out for the ice cream.
Yeah, Jimmy's and More is the name of the company. Yeah, it's great. And I we've watched a few of our MBAs and undergrads really get to that point, take their projects and move them to the next level. And that's super fun, but we don't spend a ton of time, honestly, Mark, on the fundraising part. It's really about the process of getting to a validated idea.
Okay, good. Because I feel like there's so much information out there and focus on the venture capital and the fundraising, and the Shark Tank has made that kind of stuff really popular. But I always feel like the best way to learn, I mentioned the second best way to learn is go be around people like Eric. Because if I was graduating from William Jessup and it's like, or anywhere else, graduating from high school, what do I want to do? I kind of have this inkling about entrepreneurship, but I don't have all the things in place to start a business. I would go learn from somebody like you. I would be like, hey, get a job. I work for free for you and try to, pick up from the way you guys are building your business. Go find someone successful and driven. Go be around them.
I tell people that your job is your first investor. Like you don't need to quit your job, blow up your life, and go all in on your idea day one. Like your current job is your first investor. They're going to make possible all the early
I'm
stages.
stealing that vine.
Steal it.
From a man of faith. I'm going to steal it from a man of God.
And it is, that transition plan, because before Webconnex, I was still doing websites and marketing collateral and other things for other people. I had this other business that was still kicking around. It took me 4 years, probably 3-4 years before I could fully transition onto Webconnex. Yeah. And that allowed us to mature the product. We didn't really know where it fit for a long time. We were trying different markets and we had a lot of false starts. We had a great technology, but finding that product market fit takes a while.
Yeah.
So when you now make your fledgling idea dependent upon your income, you've now introduced this really complex factor into it. And now future risk taking is even harder. So I like to tell people, get something off the ground, keep your job, kick butt on that, stay up late nights, wake up early, do weekends, and then start working on it. And that allows your product to actually mature and find some fit. And then when it's got traction, then you can look at how to capitalize it a little
your
better.
Job is your first investor. I love that. And the other thing too about doing a good job at your job is you get recognized, you make a little bit more money, but you also get handed other opportunities, which is a great way to learn as well. So that's very intriguing. And also, if you are a great worker, some of the other people that you work around sort of respect that, and they might follow you when you go turn that side hustle into something important. They're going to be like, I want to be around the guy that kicks butt around work.
That's right. Yeah.
So side hustle, I have to imagine, so if you're a college student, everything's a side hustle at that piece. So the word side hustle didn't exist, 5 or 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Now side hustle is cool.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a side hustle.
Everybody's got a side hustle.
Yeah.
You got to have one.
Tell me about some of the side hustles. Okay, we have the ice cream maker, which that sounds really intriguing.
It's really intriguing. And quick aside, I thought, okay, is it just me because I'm biased, right? Because great guy, great student. And so I took some home over Christmas break and I blind taste tested with all 7 family members, and 7 out of 7 picked this stuff. So I felt better, like it wasn't just my bias. Okay. We have some really fascinating. I mean, we have an MBA student who's actively starting his company, which is basically teaching leadership skills to the blue collar Hispanic labor. And he's done. I mean, he sort of it's his culture, is his background, it's his, and he looks at it and says, really, all they're missing is the understanding. And so it's already getting traction, and already he already has customers, and we have one of our other MBA students, actually a double Jessup degree, who is working on a local publication. We have a MBA student who's a vet and former law enforcement officer who is starting a coffee company, and unique because it's sort of Black Rifle, sort of other, but he's got a very targeted niche with respect to
how important is it to have a business that's different than all the other businesses out there? Because there's a lot of people that start businesses and they're almost like going into a commodity type project. They do it the same way as everybody else does. How important is it to be different?
I think there's 2 extremes. I think sometimes people think the secret to success is to do something that's never been done before. But we know that we're not using the originators of any given industry. Google's not the first search engine. They were like 5th. Facebook wasn't the first social media network. And the list goes on and on. Tesla wasn't the first electric car. So someone who has the original, never been done before idea carries the burden to educate the market and to win them. And usually they get dethroned by someone who comes along and does it better. So I like to think of it as like not never been done before, but do it better than ever before.
Do you have to? So let's say you're say you swing a hammer for a living, you want to start a construction company, and do you have to know what that your way of doing it is better than the competition before you start, or can you get in and figure out how to make it better? Maybe construction is not even a good example. Maybe the ice cream guy is a better example. Yeah. Hey, I don't know if I can make a better cup of ice cream or not, but should that stop you from getting in, or should you have it figured out prior to starting that yours is different?
It's a great question. I mean, to build, Eric, on what you said, I think that, I encourage all of my students, and even when I serve as an advisor, to be able to answer 2 questions. Why are you different, and why are you worth paying attention to? Because if you can answer those 2 questions, and a lot of that, in a lot of cases, comes down to different execution, right? Not like we're different because we're unique and innovative. We just do it better, right? We're just that much better. But I think that's important because, we're all inundated every day with ads and social media and emails and everything else. And so to stand out in the market, I think you've got to have something that's different that people can kind of hang their hat on.
And I think someone who starts an ice cream business, maybe that's not the thing they take to the moon, but that experience of starting a product, selling it, winning a customer, making money, that's an MBA in a box right there. Like you will learn so much from that process. And my kids, they want to start a business. This is a couple of years ago. It was the fall, and it's like, all right, what do we do? And so we were talking about what do people like? What can you do with like a 7 and a 10-year-old at the time, you know? Yeah. And so I was like, kids, what do people send in the mail around December? And they're like, Christmas cards. It's like, yes. What about all the Christmas cards? It's like, there's photos. It's like, well, Daddy's got some cameras. Why don't we create Scarlet Mavericks photography business? And all we did is we went on Nextdoor. It's like Scarlet Mavericks photography business. We did a little video. We printed flyers, put them in the sidecar, dropped flyers.
Yep.
And they're all like, no one's going to pay for it, you know, whatever. It's like, all right, the fear that someone's going to have is that they're going to have a terrible photo. We're going to have a good camera and Daddy's going to be on site. And so we did it and we made a few $100.
Wow.
And the kids just like could not believe it. And that taste of that thrill of the hunt and the win was super important. When someone hands them a $50 bill and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, like it was so satisfying. So someone who wants to do construction, who wants to create ice cream, wants to do any side hustle, that pursuit of starting something that originates from your heart, your mind, getting to a paying customer, to me, that is so special that's now going to pave the way for something else. And that was my whole thing. My genesis is like, I didn't pick software to begin with. I went from logos to t-shirts to catalogs to websites to email newsletters to a software application that can now take a request and do something with it.
So thinking about that, so you start the side hustle, maybe because a lot of people talk about follow your passion for sure, have some commitment, and that commitment kind of can come over time, because if it's a side hustle, how committed are you? It's kind of questionable, I think, in many cases, but also maybe having like a big vision. Sometimes I think we start things without the big vision, but then the big vision, it sort of unfolds. It's like, oh, now I see how this could be big or real or super compelling. So thinking about that is for you, and then like on Webconnex, you've obviously built this big, this really successful company now. When did you know like this is it? Now I'm trying to create a great vision. And
yeah, and I think this ties into the original question of how do people become entrepreneurs. We will have vision in the full HD, full color picture in our mind. And then it's our responsibility to find what is the baby version of that and start to express it first. And sometimes that's the harder challenge, that people won't part ways with the full picture in their mind.
Baby version of the big dream.
Yeah, someone's like, I want to start a school. Awesome. Why don't you start tutoring kids in your house? Well, I need a building, I need real estate, I need investors. And so now they've held their dream hostage because they can't tolerate the smaller version. It's like, well, we'll worry about the building, the classroom, the accreditations later. Why don't you just start teaching kids at a park, at a coffee shop? And they can't see the steps to that. And so for us, I think I'm a product guy. I've got big visions and I've already solved all the world's problem in code already. But it then becomes, all right, what is the next stepping stone and the next iteration? And I have to be okay with a smaller version of what is in my heart, my big dream, knowing that that is a small step to that. And the next one's gonna be the next step to that one, and so forth. So I'm on a 15-year journey of, capturing that full vision in my mind. And, it's satisfying to get there, but it takes a long time.
What is the vision now? Do you have like when you, keep your eye, do you dream about it with your eyes wide open?
Oh man.
What's it look like?
I've got so many dreams. I think on a product level, feature level, I'm really intrigued by what we're doing with cashless payments. And we have this new feature where we're converting everyone's ticket for their barcode for their event into their mobile way to pay for anything on site. Merchandise, t-shirts, beer, whatever. So I'm fascinated by the technology challenges there. I would say, market, just adoption across our portfolio. It's really competitive in our markets, and just chasing market share is really exciting. But I'm also loving what we're doing on the company culture level. We're almost 100 people, or we're like 90 or so now. And we've had a great company culture, and we were 45 people, 16 months ago. Now we're almost 90. And so scaling culture has been hard. But I'd say that the human element and the people element is probably I'm most drawn to. How long can we keep this experiment up with the most empowering, generous, and fun company culture ever. And it's hard as you scale. But I'm enthralled by that challenge. I want to say, like, how far can we go with this company culture? How much market share can we get? And how many new features can we build? And so for me, it's just continuing to chase this unbelievable dream that's been unfolding.
That's awesome. How do you tap into people's long-term dream at William Jessup? Is the ice cream business just a side hustle for fun, or is it part of a grander dream to build the next Dryer's ice cream?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that what I have observed over the years is that all of the successful startups that have come out of and all are relatively small, but they all have a real why behind them that relates neither to money nor fame. And almost always relates to a specific social cause that's near and dear to their heart that would be a beneficiary of the success of the startup.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I see the true drive, frankly, and the true sort of like, yeah, it's okay. I'll get up at 6 a.m. It's my side hustle, and whether it's, stuff coffee in bags or make pints of ice cream, it doesn't matter because there's a real deep why back there.
Yeah. That's interesting. Tapping into that can keep you going when you get knocked down too.
Yeah.
Okay, so just last closing thoughts. What did I not ask you? What words of wisdom can you impart to this entrepreneurial community here? And most of our listeners are around the Sacramento region.
Just start. Like, take the first step. Just try it and do it fearlessly. And if you're afraid, find somebody that will help you through it.
I love it.
I would say pursue for the right reasons. I think money's a poor motivator to become an entrepreneur. Like, that's not why typically, that's not the fastest way to wealth is to become an entrepreneur. And I think that there's a lot of people chasing things they're not passionate about. And when I think about my favorite ideas, the most successful ideas, they come from one of three personal experiences, which I believe every great idea comes from. It's either love, hate, or heartbreak. Those experiences, whether I love music or I love motocross, and so my love of that thing is going to drive my passion to see it through. And my business idea might be helping other people love it too, or get better at it, or how do we make it more accessible? Hate, what are the things that frustrate me? And like, I'm intrinsically motivated to do away with robocallers, there's a passion that's there. And then heartbreak, what moves your soul? What brings you to tears? And like, you're going to have this motivation. And so if we're going to be successful entrepreneurs, we need to sign up for a long journey. And money, when it's not realized in the first few months, we just kind of bounce,
Amen.
But when you have this intrinsic passion and you're inspired by that idea from one of those three experiences, you'll be in it for the long haul because you need that to get to fruition.
Love,
hate, and heartbreak.
Not greed.
Nope.
No, Mark Haney. No greed.
Well, profit is the applause of customers well served.
Yeah.
When you do something well, you're meeting demands, the money's going to follow. And we need to be good stewards. Like, we need to be able to provide for our employees and staff. And like, money is really important. But if we are only driven by the money itself, I think it's a terrible long-term motivator, and will also pull us into compromises, which are short-term, maybe shrewd, but long-term poor.
Great point. Yeah. And just start. I love that, Ray. Hey, thanks for helping me with my effort to ignite an entrepreneurial revolution and change this hometown we love for the better. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Mark Haney Show. Great show. Ray Bryant, Eric Knopf sharing their words of wisdom, words of encouragement, a little bit about their faith and why entrepreneurship is so important, because it is. Entrepreneurs are the heroes of the American economy. They're the ones that are out there putting it all on the line in order to change the world. So how do you become the best entrepreneur possible? How do you unleash your full potential? And I think we need to be continually learning about entrepreneurship. And I think we know that the best way to learn anything is by getting in the game, rolling up your sleeves, getting your hands dirty, and figuring it out. The truth about entrepreneurship is in the trenches, but the second best way to learn is by being around and spending time with people who have actually been there, done that, and come out on the other end successful. People like Eric Knopf and Ray Bryant, they have done that. We're also going to have an event here where you can get in the game and be around other successful entrepreneurs. It is on April 19th here at my office at 5:30. It's called Entrepreneurs Unleashed, and there will be entrepreneurs here. There will be experts from different ways of building businesses here. And we're going to be talking about bootstrapping our business. It's a little bit of a bootstrapping boot camp, if you will. And I'll have a panel of people that really get it. And we'll be talking about that because realistically, nobody builds a great company alone. And by being around people that have been there, done that, you can pick up some ideas. And as you know, we're going into some uncertain times. We are in some uncertain times from an economy standpoint. And this is the time where we need to be thinking about how to make our cash last a little bit longer. And so we'll be sharing some of the things that I've done over the years, but also we have people that are really built to share what they do and how to help you with yours. So there should be a few hundred people here at my office here in Rockland. So if you want more information on that, hit me up on Instagram at @themarkhaney. Email me at mark@haneybiz.com. And feel free always to show up down here at Rockland, because if you are an entrepreneur, we want to know you. So to all you out there fighting the good fight for our freedom, for our security, and our way of life, and to all you out there fighting the good fight for entrepreneurship, here at Haney Biz, here on the Mark Haney Show, here at the Growth Factory, we're never above you, never below you, always by your side.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.